Okay, so today we are going to go over typing up a PR in Settler from a write-up sheet that is sent to you by one of the searchers, somebody who needs something typed. So all of the typing happens on the commitment dashboard. So you will go into the file, you will select the title commitment button, and it brings you up to this page. At the beginning here, there are just some information about the file. Don't really need to worry too much about that. The first place that you will add information is right here to the contacts. We will add a title contact, and this will be whoever sent you this to type up. Typically that will be, at least right now, Garrett, me, Mary Lynn, or Gracie. So you will type in the information here and add that searcher's information. And this is just the office phone number. The standard office phone number goes in there. And then their email, their name. And hit save there. That will add their information to the title contact. Next, distribution is just information about the parties entered in the file. We also don't need to worry about that when typing. This is also just the buyers and sellers. You can change information here. However, typically when we are just typing, we don't need to worry about that at this point. The estimate of fees in here is where we add the policy information. They hopefully have added the policies that we need at order entry. So you can go in and verify that the correct policy type is in here and amounts, and verify that rate quote here. We will save rate quote for another video though. So that is all information you should check, but there does need to be a policy entered, either an owner's or a lender's, doesn't matter which, but a policy needs to be entered in order for some of the exceptions to show up below. And I will show you that when we get there. Next, we will get to Schedule A, and this is where information input really starts. So you will first start at the yellow box with the effective date, and this information will line up with the write-up sheet that you were sent. Depending on who searched it, it will either come as one full document of this write-up sheet and then all of the documents that they used for the search attached as subsequent pages. I personally, for me, it's easier to not have to try to combine them at the end, so I will send up a write-up sheet separate from the scan docs. And these are just the information we use to complete the search. And so you will base it all off of the write-up sheet. The scan docs are supplemental, and you will need to access some information from them, but go off of the information on the write-up sheet. That is what is the final. This is what they want typed up. There may be other notes that, maybe things are circled or whatever as just part of the search process, but this is what makes it on here, is what has been decided that the searcher wants in the file. So first is the effective date here. And so you'll just enter that. You have to use in Settler 2 digits. So if you go 01/26/26, it will automatically enter that. However, if you forget the 0 before, it will not do it correctly. Or you can fully type it out. This is information pulled off the policy, and so we don't really need to worry about that. So the next you will come down to number 4, which is the vesting, which is number 3 on the write-up sheet, which is kind of confusing. I did not realize till now that those were slightly off, but that's where the vesting, it says vested here, so this is the vesting information. And I have put in a note of the document that that information is pulling off of. So this is pulling off of a warranty deed, and these are the books and pages. Typically, it will be the book and page that is referenced here. However, there are some counties that do not use book and pages, and in those cases, it would just be the entry number that's there. So this is a time when you can go and reference the title scanned docs, and that warranty deed will be included in part of them. And you can just look through here till you find it. I know it's close to the bottom here. Let's make that a little bigger. So this is the warranty deed, book 1249, page 1410, which is the same one referenced here. So this is where my vesting is coming off of, and that same document is referenced below because that is also where the legal description is coming from. So we can go back to this document, and in this, if you click the pencil, that is how you edit it. And there is a couple different boxes we use here. So if it's an individual name, we will add it to this box. And then if this box is left blank and there are more than one, and there is more than one name, that will automatically put an and between the names. So for instance, if it was and Bob, and we saved that, it would put an and between the names. And then if there is any information after the names, such as if this said a Utah Limited Liability Company, that would also go in this box. So this one does not have that information, but if it was there, we would add the comma and Utah Limited Liability Company over in that qualifier box. And that just sets it up correctly further down the line when escrow is creating documents at signing. The time that so that will be, or if there are two individuals that own it as joint tenants, as joint tenants would go in that qualifier box, husband and wife, any of those type of endings to after the names of the vesting. If it is owned by a trust, so if the prior owners, this Keith Frank Heyer, managing trustee, the whole entire trust line, so starting at Keith and ending in 2001, would all go in the insured name box, because they need that entire trust name to show up on the signature lines. So they want all of that in one box. So that's kind of how you add the vesting. So yeah, make sure it matches very exactly. This needs to match exactly for title to transfer correctly. And actually we need to add a period after the E here, and make that, save that change. And then the pencil right below that, is for the vesting. It's described as follows. Here's where the vesting goes. You can try and copy and paste if you can do that. That definitely is helpful. Sometimes if you go to the actual document, it will let you copy and paste it. But if you are able to copy and paste it, it is also very important that you proofread it, because yeah, a lot of times it messes up the formatting like that. And so it is very important to go back, fix any errors, proofread it, so that there aren't any mistakes, so we don't have to redo deeds. For purpose of not making this forever long, I am going to hit save and come back and edit that later. So yeah, that is where the vesting or the legal description goes in that box. If you have a file with more than one property, you can add a new row here and add a second legal description here. We always put the legal description and then at the bottom, add the parcel number. So that's where the vesting goes. Next after that is, it starts Schedule B. It starts with the requirements. So if we go back to our write-up sheet, requirements, we actually list at the bottom of the write-up sheet. So you will look at the bottom, and these are the words that you use to find the specific exceptions that we want added. So you will push this, and this right here, this 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the automatic ones that pull in when I said there needs to be a policy entered. Those are the things that it pulls in when that policy is added. So if there is not a policy in the file, this would be blank. So that's why we need to make sure there is a policy of some sort added. So you can add by hitting the plus here, and you can just start typing these and it will pull up the options. So this one, free and clear, it pulls it up, you select that. If you need to make any changes to it, you can hit save and edit. Or if this is the last one, hit save changes. We are going to add another one. Deed means that they want a deed conveying title to the new purchasers. We are going to do a deed at closing because they are selling this property. And so this is the one that we select for that. Some of these other ones are used for other purposes, and if they are used, they will be specifically spelled out. And then this little box will pop up on things that have information fields that need filled in. If there is an equal sign in the box, that means it is programmed to pull information from somewhere else. So this one equals S, it means that that information is the seller. So it will automatically pull the seller in. If that box is blank, we need to add information to it. So since this has an equal sign, we know it's going to pull in the information automatically. We can save and add another. And then they need to execute a deed of trust that will be insured in Utah. It is also always execute a deed of trust. In Wyoming or Idaho, you are executing a mortgage. And so there are some exceptions for that you won't ever use because they are for other offices. So you kind of have to just kind of read through them and intuitively know which ones for which property and which office you are working in. So we will save those changes because that's the last one listed here and go down to the next section. So Schedule B Part 2 is the exceptions. So initially pulls in all of those exceptions that are added because of the policy. And then we will begin adding with this plus sign. So these exceptions start here at special exceptions on the write-up sheet, with number 1 being taxes. So we will hit a plus. And for taxes, there are many options to fit all the different possibilities. A lot of times it will be the current year, which is now 2026, is a lien, not yet due and payable. And then the prior year, 2025, having been paid. But there are lots of different options. So if you just type in taxes, there are a lot, and there are a lot set up for different offices. A lot of them that end in ID are Idaho, and then there's some for Wyoming because each state is set up separately. There are ones for when taxes are delinquent, or if taxes are paid with a parent parcel, or just lots of different scenarios. So if you have anything other than the standard lien and paid, just look through those and find the one that best fits the information given. And they will be filled out on separate lines. When taxes become due, the amount will be listed here. When taxes are delinquent, they will be listed here. So you can kind of look through and find the scenario that fits it best. And so we are going to add 26's a lien and 25 paid. It usually pulls up right here. All right. Everybody's probably looking at this going, it's right there. I just can't see it. Oh, goodness. There we go. So 2025 is paid in the amount of 105.38. And again, this line has an equal sign in it, so that is going to automatically pull in the tax number. On this one, if there are multiple parcels in the file, you will need to override that because it will only pull in the first tax number listed. And I probably should have shown here. So this is like your helper box that tells you what to type in that. So this says amount, and then the gray words in the background are just kind of your hint as to like what information to put in there. So that's where we would put the amount. So you can save and add another, but I will show you what, if you hit save and edit, it will turn it into just the straight text. This is what the actual exception looks like when we send it out. And so this is where if you needed to change that tax number, overwrite it to be the second tax number in the file, you would erase that information and type it in there and it would save it. And then you can just hit save changes at the end and that will be saved. We're going to go on. We're going to add another one here. So number 2 is a tax district. You can type tax district in. It also has a code 2-01 if you want to remember that. And so you will just copy this information over into the tax district. It will automatically add the state to the end. So we will add this information, and I abbreviate the county at the end there. So any abbreviations that you see, it is definitely best to type them out fully and not just leave them abbreviated. So we will type out Box Elder County there. No comma at the end. It will automatically add comma and state. And then, oh, I did not want to save and add that one, but we can look at it. So it adds it here, 113, Garland, Box Elder County, and then has the equal state because it's pulling in the state. And if you can see kind of in the background here, it added Utah. So we will save and add another. If they are these words are the codes for what you can type in. So if we type in Eagle, it will bring up Eagle Water. So you can just click that and save and add another. A lot of these ones that have word descriptions, well, if they don't have a book and page referenced on the side of them, they typically don't need any extra information added to them. Mineral rights in Utah, we picked this Mineral Utah 4-21. And so that's the mineral one you will use. 4-15 is next. We have a few instances in which we use this long version, but typically we just use this standard version. So next it says prior 12. So a lot of times when we do the search, we use a prior policy. And so that indicates to come back to these scan docs and to find the prior that we base the search from. So it starts here. We're going to scroll down until we find number 12. So right here, it indicates to add this easement. Like I said before, I've got circles on these other things, but those were things like the tax district and other things that I added to the write-up sheet individually. And so you don't need to worry about them. We are just adding 12 because 12 is the only number indicated. And so here, if we look at this, it says a right-of-way easement in favor of American Telephone and Telegraph. So a lot of the exceptions, there's a bunch of templates made. There is just a general easement exception for most common easements that has you fill in grantor, grantee, just the information. But a lot of them for the different utility companies or bigger companies that have multiple many easements filed on all sorts of different properties, we have templates made specifically for them. just to make it easier so you don't have to type in all of the information all the time. And this says Wyoming at the end, but that is because it is a Wyoming corporation. And so that is the correct one. I started typing in American. And so that's for the utility ones. That is probably the easiest way to find them, is if you start typing in the utility company name, it will start bringing them up and you will be able to see it that way. So we will select that option. And so yes, this just makes it easier so we don't have to type in the grantor grantee and information. So this one, the recording information is down here. And so it was dated here, September 18th. And after a certain point, I'm not sure what age in Settler, the 19 years require the 19 in front. You can't just put 29. It will automatically assume it's 2029. I believe it's like 1970 and older. It's best to type in the 19 first. And so it was recorded here, October 24th, 1929. The entry number is this number here. And then the book and page. So the book, if it's old enough that it has a miss in front of it, that is also part of the book number, even though none of it is a number. So there's the book and the page. And so yeah, once all that information is in there, you can save and add another. And we will go back to the write-up sheet. Next, it says 2-06, and that is just a code you can type in here. But there is a book and page, so you know you're going to have to add information. It is this Greenbelt application. And so if there is a book and page referenced, you can go to the county and you can pull up that document, either search for it by book and page or on the abstract, whichever you find easiest. And that was 1253-709. 1253-709 is the one that I want. So we will add the information from this. It was dated here and then recorded on 5/21/15. And the entry number. These numbers are definitely easier to read if you can have it split between screens, but for videoing purposes, that was not ideal. So you add that information in there and you can save and add another. Then I think we just have a couple here left. So next is free and clear. There are no mortgages on the property or deeds of trust. Again, in Utah, it is a deed of trust. Idaho and Wyoming use mortgage. So we will add free and clear. And then chain is the only one left. So chain, it actually goes in a different category. So the one right before chain will be the last one. So we will hit save changes. And then the chain actually comes down here in informational notes. So if you push this plus, and then you can either just start by typing chain or none or something to bring up the options here. So if there is a document you need to add, you will pick this chain of title that has nothing by it. If there is no chain of title, you will select this one that says none. And that text automatically pulls in as none. And so since we don't have a document to add, we will just save those changes and that will pull up none there. So after all of that is typed, we then want to go back through and make sure everything looks good, make sure everything is linked. So first, right off, notice these big red circles. That is because Settler is detecting this as it should be a document, but I don't have it in my system, and so I need something to hyperlink here. And so when we see those red circles, we need to go back to the county and we need to pull a copy of those documents. So I'm going to download this one here. I personally find it easiest to save it by the entry number and then the year, because that is the information you need to add to Settler in order for it to hyperlink that information. So I save it with the entry number and the year. I save it to my desktop or as a download and pull it over, and that will automatically signify to upload this to Settler. My document type here, I am going to choose an exception on title report. And then it will, when you select that, it will bring up the set recording information box. So you will type the year in here, 2015, and then the entry number that goes over here. It has places for book and page, but it doesn't actually use that information. So I don't type that in because it's just extra work that does nothing substantial. So then when you hit upload, it will upload that document. And then if we refresh this page, I'm not sure if it'll refresh with, there we go. It will show that with an underline. And then you can open that link and show that it hyperlinked that document after it thinks for a long time. And so now that document is attached. So it looks like we have one more. So we will go back and find that document as well. That document is old enough. I know it's not going to be on the abstract. So I am going to just search for it specifically. And here's a copy of that historical document. And so again, I can just download this. And then the year on this one was 1929. And save that one as well. And I do want to make sure on this entry number, I used a little f when I typed it. So I want to make sure I also use a little f here so that it will save that correctly. If the information does not match exactly, Settler will not link it. And there we go, it's linked. So if you happen to make a mistake when adding a document, you can come over to the apps drop down and recorded documents. And that is where it stores your documents that you have uploaded. It will only store your documents. So if you, if someone else added a document with an error, we have to try to find a way around that, add another version, call it something different, some way to add that in, because you can only edit the ones that you have added. But so those two documents I added are right here. And so if we needed to make any changes, we could click on that. So if I had saved it with a big F, I could change that here or year or something. So that under apps and recorded documents is where you can make those changes. So now, yeah, you just want to go back through. We made sure those were hyperlinked. We want to make sure all the spacing is correct. Make sure everything looks neat and tidy. And then we can email back whoever sent it to us and let them know that it is ready for review. A couple just other notes. On the exceptions, there, like I said earlier, there are some counties that do not have a book and page. And so in those cases, you would just typically edit this exception. And then when you hit save and edit, you would save and edit it at the end and delete that information out. And just delete those lines, things like that, just to make them look neat and pretty, so that there's not just blank lines there. Also, there are, like the utility companies, there are also a couple documents in some of the counties that are recorded on vast majorities of properties in the county. And so they have preset exceptions as well. And so you will, if there's a document that you see all the time, you might, eventually you'd be like, hey, I've seen this so many times. I wonder if it has one. And so you can type in there typically labeled by entry number or book and page, depending on the county. So like this one, this Union Pacific book 492, 52, 523, there's a lot of that document. And so there are a few instances that those are preset, and those are just handy because you don't have to type anything in. So that will be something you probably use more as you get more familiar with the documents and things like that. There also are sometimes documents that are just odd, that don't follow a typical format. So there are exceptions for most things. There are, there's notices, just a blank notice, a notice of interest, notice of creation, a lot of different ones. But sometimes you will run into a document that you just can't find an exception that looks like it will fit well for it. And in that case, we do have an exception, this short miss, that is just kind of a general basic one that you can use. So you would type the document title up here, and then the recording information below, and it will just pull that in and it will just reference that document that way. And two, on some of them, for instance, like an easement that is not with a specific utility company, you can add, you'll add all this information, but sometimes the document might be called a sewer easement or a access easement, or have a more specific name, even though it is a general easement. And in that case, we also want to hit save and edit and add in that full document name. So if it's a sewer easement, we want that to match the document name there. And also, just to make it look good, we want to make sure that sewer is capitalized like the easement. We generally speaking have the document names capitalized, and everything else is in typical lower, capitalization, lowercase type. If you have something added that you added accidentally or you changed, you can delete it this way. You have to hit that X twice and it will go away. If you have a file, this one we're done with now, we can say, here you go. If you have a file that has a prior from Settler, it is a file that we have searched before, or we have searched another lot in that subdivision, and we have a file in Settler for that. We can copy from background, and it will pull all of these exceptions and stuff forward. To do that, you will click this copy from background button. And you will enter that file number in here. I'm just going to, I need an O in there. So you will enter that file number in here, and then you have to click on it to select from below. These are all the different things that you can copy. When I am copying from background, I only ever copy the legal and the requirements and the exceptions. So you'll click those things, and then down here below, it will show what it is going to bring up, show that information. This lists the buyer and seller here, but that's just showing from the file. It is only going to copy over this legal description because we only asked it to copy the legal. And it will show you a brief overview of the requirements and exceptions as well. And then if you hit copy, it will drag all of those things into the file. And then you can edit it from that way. It makes it significantly easier, so you don't have to retype them all, but also still go through it and make sure that those copied exceptions match what is on the write-up sheet, because oftentimes if it is like another lot in a subdivision, the deed of trust at the bottom might be different, or there might be easements that affect one lot that don't affect another lot. So still go through and verify that they match, but it makes it so you don't have to type in all of them. And yeah, so that is how we type a PR.